All right, welcome back, everybody. We're at the Setting the Space Plymouth Rock TV studios here at the Kingston Collection, and we're going to get right into a story that you've been dying to tell me.
Yeah.
About one of my huge fans out there, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I honestly think she could be your biggest fan.
Okay.
But you do yes, actually, Chuck, I want to say that. You keep praising me, and I want to tell you that the feedback I'm getting is about both of us. And I want you to really take that in, because people are enjoying our banter. And today, the story I'm going to tell you, my friend, she's a healer, an energy healer, kind of right in line with what we're talking about. It's a little supernatural to some people because they think the doctor goes in and he checks your, measurable things, your heart, your, let me look in your ears and, let me take an x-ray. And energy healers feel. And that's, again, we don't fully understand how.
Well, Reiki, right? That's a form of energy healing.
Energy healing.
Adjustments.
Yeah, and she's magical, and I've got some stories I can share you about her. But she noticed that you showed up in a big way on last week's show, particularly in part 2, I think she said. And she noticed how smart you were. And she was just sort of because she was reading your energy, captured by your essence, but also feeling that you don't own that or see it. But that when you were in your authenticity in our show, that you sort of shed those layers and whatever self-doubt.
I do edit the film, so I can also make myself look very smart.
No.
I can do anything I want when I can edit. It's
not the magic of your editing. So she was seeing you in your essence. So your authenticity was shining through because you were just in the moment. And that's kind of when we are ourselves, when we forget what we're doing, we're just being. And so you were just being you. But you were so smart and you had so much wisdom. And she used the example of when you were discussing foods from the different regions. And that was a really intelligent question. And I don't have to tell you you're smart, because I think that. But for her to see it and to talk about it and then say, because she watches all of our shows, from last week's show to this week's show, you are a different version of yourself. That there's something in... So energy people talk about chakras, yoga people do too. Not entirely important for this episode, but when they're blocked, it's kind of like when we feel stuck in our language, right? When you're blocked energetically, it's just where you're storing it in your body, traumas that are unhealed. But when unblocked, they look illuminated to somebody reading your energy. And when they're blocked, they feel sticky and stuck. So she noticed that you're...
What's her name?
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say.
Okay. I was going to give her a shout out.
She might come on the show. Call me.
You're a super fan. You like my crown chakra here? Okay.
So anyway,
you don't
she
have
noticed.
To give her name, but
yes.
You know who you are.
But she noticed that it was illuminated and that you were opening up to your own potential. And she goes, "Go, Chuck." She was so excited because she said, "I think this is actually going to be about Chuck's transformation." Hopefully we're all kind of transforming into who we were meant to be.
I'm going to turn into a butterfly in the
Could
middle
be.
of the show.
Fly away.
Off like Harry Potter or something. But no,
it's a cool concept.
Yeah, sure.
And she is so legit. And so I'll give you some stories that substantiate her opinion being more than woo-woo or supernatural. If you're interested, should I tell that now?
Of course, yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so she is one of my very best friends, and her gifts I've known about for years. And I personally had never used her healing because we were just girlfriends, and we both have our own skills, and we're both really busy. But this one year, I was on vacation with family, and I was walking around Disney Park, or Disney World, or whatever, and I noticed I had what I thought was a spider bite, and it was itchy. And then a few hours later, I had another one just above it. And a few hours later, I had another one. And I kind of, being a nurse, realized this isn't one straight line. Is this shingles? But I'm thinking, wait, I'm young and I'm not that stressed because I think we are all, I was, but I was maybe not aware of the level of stress, almost maybe in denial. I don't know. I'm always a work in progress, as we all are. So I'm thinking it can't be shingles. But sure enough, the next morning I woke up and it was on my forehead. So I called family members who are both doctors. And I said, "I'm thinking it's this. What do you think?" And they said, "It's absolutely shingles. That's going right to your optic nerve. Go to the ER the minute you get home." And so I did, and they confirmed it was shingles. And they said, "If tomorrow this is on your eye," no, I wasn't at the ER. I went to the walk-in clinic as soon as I got home. And they said, "If this travels at all and goes to your eye, go directly to the ER because it can cause blindness." And in the middle of the night, I woke up itching my eye, and I thought,
boy.
and it was actually not middle, it was about 5 a.m., and my kids were going to school shortly. And I remember saying to my husband, we don't need to go now. Nothing's going to happen in an hour. Let's get the kids to school so they're not worried, and then we'll go. And so I went to the hospital, and they checked my eyes, and they confirmed there were dendrites on my eye, which is concerning and can lead to the blindness. So they said, you need to go see a doctor that can check your eyes, an eye doctor. And so I went, and the doctor had his little eye machine, and but he was a little rude, very dismissive. Energy was off. And he had that chair with the wheels, and he kind of like rolled over, like, you know, you can picture it, like
Sure,
zoomed
yeah.
over, and he was like, all right, let me look at your eyes. And he looked, and he was like, your eyes are fine. And I was like, what? And he said, I checked, and there's nothing here. Now, this is where the story is magical. What I didn't tell you is that I immediately called my healer friend when they found the dendrites on my eye. And in a panic, she said, or I was panicked, and she said, let me pray for you. Let me do what I do. So I called her when I got home. She said, call me when you get home, when I know you can lay down and receive what I'm going to give you. So I laid down, and she basically prayed in my ear. We were not even together for 2 hours. And at the very conclusion of our 2 hours on the phone, she said, oh, there it is. Literally, she could see it. She said, I just pulled something black from your eye. That's pretty far out there. And I think a lot of people listening are like, come on. Even I, who love her dearly, and I have known of her healing work, I was like, okay, thank you, but wasn't really buying into it. Flash forward to that doctor moment. He says, your eyes are fine. And now I'm still doubting her gifts. Because he was such a jerk, I thought, I don't think he looked very good. So I leave the doctor's office, and my friend calls me right away. How did it go? And I said, well, fine. My eyes are fine, but he was such a jerk. And she said, I think I actually said douchebag. He was such a douchebag. And she was like, she goes, okay, Sharm. Right away, she said, listen, you need to go get a second opinion, but not to prove that he's a douchebag. Instead, it's to prove that you have had a miracle.
So back up a little bit. You had gone to him, Dr. Douchebag, before you went to, before you
I told it in a weird way. I shouldn't have done it in that order.
Did she do the healing
She
for you on the phone first?
First, for 2
Okay,
hours.
so then when you did see him,
so when I see it was
maybe he
right
was
at,
right.
So that's my point. So then I went to a second opinion.
We have to apologize to this doctor. We just gave,
Dr. Douchebag?
Dr. Douchebag, because he was, theoretically, if your
He
friend...
was right.
He was right.
But that's
there
what
was
she
nothing
said.
wrong.
She said, go get a second opinion, not to prove that he's wrong.
Yeah.
Or douchebag, but to
Right.
prove that. How many times can we say that in one episode?
We'll break the record. I think it's definitely the Plymouth Rock TV record of the most times douchebag has been said. So
we got that. We got that.
We'll have a little trophy up on the shelf.
So anyway, I did go and had a second opinion on my eyes, and they were fine. Absolutely clear. Now, I was telling you, every hour I was noticing they were moving, and it was on my eye. Not only did they not move, but anyone who's had shingles, it's really painful. The healing process is really slow. 24 hours after that eye appointment, they literally just, they just went flat. They just went flat. Felt like there was almost no healing process, like they were being just evaporated. I mean, when I tell you I was completely healed, I was. And now, going back to the root of all of our illness or dis-ease in our body is about us. And I said, I didn't think I was stressed because on paper, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a nurse. I know about all the things. But I was stressed. At that time, it was right before I gave up my radio show. And my husband needed my help for his company. And I had 3 daughters and all the things. And I was like, I'm doing it. I can do it. I also had people in my studio. So I think I told you, my studio was in my home because we had a separate entrance and it had heated floors. It was very ideal for the situation. And people wouldn't leave, which I loved, but also was a little bit of a time crunch to do the other things in my life. And while I was giving to them, it was also like making me feel stressed about other chapters. So I was stressed and I wasn't managing it well. And then all of a sudden your body whispers to you, or it hits you over the head, or it, taps you on the shoulder. And that was a call for me to make some changes. And that's when I stopped my radio show. I stopped teaching yoga and I focused primarily on my family. Obviously they're my priority, but my coaching, my life coaching, and I was able to help my husband. Regaining that balance in my body, but also recognizing we are starfish, and that energetic healing really was beautiful, and there's so much we don't understand. So that's one example of why you should trust that she sees your potential possibilities and all the things that's happening for you. And I love that. What do you think?
I do too. I mean, and it's interesting just what we believe, because our minds are built to talk ourselves out of any kind of conclusion that doesn't fit the safest conclusion, maybe. You know,
No, for sure.
If you went to that doctor and he says you have this issue, and he grabbed a scalpel and he cuts your eye open and he pulls something out, you have a bandage over there, you believe it.
I know.
But why did you have to go through that to believe that the healing can be done? Because at any given point, your body is, God forbid, knock on wood, like we're warding, a cancer cell pops up and then it fights it. And then we never know of it being something that expands and grows or what have you, but we're constantly fighting off things and healing ourselves like all the time, every day.
Right now.
When we're in that state of health where you don't feel it,
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because we are healing machines. I just know we are so much
more
greater and more. Exactly.
So I've been life coaching for a long time, and when I first started, I think, when you're connecting with somebody and it feels emotional, you're like, oh, they get me. There's a resonance, right?
Yeah.
So that was happening when I was teaching yoga, and it became coaching because I was recognizing my words were affecting people. But the longer I did this, the more I realized I was reading energy. And so now in 2025, when I'm coaching you, if you tell me a story, when you say something that has resonance for the depth of what you're really rooted in, like I feel that. I feel where your pain points are. I feel where it's important, and I can't describe it. It's like I'm reading you. So you'll talk and you'll say something that might feel insignificant. You might say, yeah, but that was third grade, so it doesn't matter, whatever. I'll say, hold on. Tell me more about that, because when you said it, there was an energetic frequency that I could feel. And that sounds crazy, but it has proven true every time. It just happened yesterday. I was at breakfast with girlfriends, and I had said something that I just felt. And it was kind of one of those, how could you feel that? And it was just a chatting exchange. And I even said, whoops, that was an accidental. Like, I don't read people normally on a daily basis. It would be exhausting. But as a coach, there is something energetically that's happening that I'm now able to process and see and feel and share it back with you so that you can see it. Because I always say, when you see it, you heal it. When you speak it, you heal it. Name it, you heal it. Like, I'm angry. Well, you're already starting to heal it if you can name it. So there's this process that's happening, but that's, again, that energy thing. There's so much more that we don't get. But it's fascinating, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's challenging because I think, especially in the journey that I'm on, and I worry about everything, and I know that that's not the desired modus operandi of how to do things, but I do, and I realize too that part of my worry comes in that I'm deeply concerned about things that are a lot more worrisome that happen to everybody. Death is part of the world we live in, sickness and illness, and I've been blessed in a lot of those regards. But then think to yourself, boy, if I have difficulty handling a troubling day of disappointments,
how will I handle the big
one? How will I
one?
handle something big? And I also don't want to put that out in the universe like, okay, give me something, because they say if you're asking God for patience, what does he do? He gives you screaming kids to be patient with. If you ask him for strength, he's going to throw something heavy at you. So I'm
really
aware.
My life story.
I'm aware of that, and I say, boy, I don't want to say the wrong things here, and because you can only be patient in a situation that requires patience. So
I would just say you start with gratitude. It reverses everything. So what you worry about, you bring about. People don't understand that. You're like, oh my God, I'm so afraid this isn't going to work. And oh my God, and if it doesn't work, then what am I going to do? And you can scenario play the whole apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right? And we do this because we think if we mentally prepare for it not working, we're somehow ready. But the truth is, what we worry about, we inadvertently stick to.
I've had a situation just like that occur where it was even one of those things where I had my keys in my hand and I envisioned me dropping them in a grate or a sewer thing, and this particular one, I was on a boat and I had a cell phone, and I said, I'm going to drop this in the water. I know it, and I did, and I've never done that before, and it was like I willed it to happen. I think because it just is in your head, and it's a similar thing back to sports analogies. When I would coach basketball, and I would teach shooting, and I'm like, if your elbow and your hand aligns with the hoop, the ball has no choice but to go there, because your mind, you're picturing the ball going in, and we would do these experiments where I would say to the kids, like, you go home, I want you to shoot 100 free throws and make them all. And they would say, well, coach, I don't have a basket at home. And I'm like, nope, you're just lying down and you're picturing yourself shooting them, and all of them go in.
Wow.
And where the people who visualized it improved far more quickly than people who are actually just practicing shooting.
Because what you think about, you bring about.
And even if you were to shoot, if I said to you, imagine shooting 100 free throws in a row and making them, people even have a difficult time doing that. Even in their head, they miss a few, which is crazy.
I had never heard that. That's
because,
really fascinating.
If you were to say, because you know that you can't make every one, but if you're imagining it, even people who try to imagine it, making 100 is hard.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so you really have to
interesting.
concentrate and go, okay, this is just a new one, shoot it, in. But then you go, I'm not going to make the next one.
Yeah.
And even in your head, you can talk yourself out of it.
Fascinating.
It's just an interesting thing how the mind creates, and we are a computer.
So our mind is so powerful, and I think if we really knew how powerful our mind was, we would never think a negative thought again.
Yeah, I've heard that. That sucks.
It sucks so bad, but it's also so empowering.
It is.
And all you got to do is catch yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that this is what I'm saying. Like, our conversation is just we are all of us. We are everybody. Because you think I don't have negative thoughts? Of course I do. I just catch them maybe sooner because I've been doing this longer, and I reverse it quicker, and I reach for that gratitude, or I reach for that next good thought, and it's a little bit easier, but it's easy work.
Yeah.
I don't have to be a spiritual guru to do that. So the more you do it, the easier it gets, and your life changes. If you worry about things, you are robbing yourself of the moment that you're in. Again, you only have this moment.
Yeah.
So if we're in this moment and life is good, and all you can think about is the catastrophe that did not happen, what in the hell are you wasting today for? Right now matters. So you're sucking the life force out of now. That's insanity.
I know.
But it's okay. I mean, you think you're alone. You are not special. Everybody does it. Everybody does it. We think we're helping ourselves. Yeah. I'm going to mentally prepare for, like, if this doesn't work. The truth is, what is meant for you cannot pass you by. You have to trust that divine orchestration. If something goes wrong, it's because something better is coming. So I often give my coaching clients a mantra to use, which is, give me this or something better. Because again, sometimes we white knuckle and say, like, oh, please give me this, and it has to be this. My whole life depends on it. I need this. Please, God, give it to me. We can do that, or we can trust that it's give me this or something better. Because what if what is coming down the lane is exponentially gonna, like, change your life?
So true, because when we are thinking about, like, if we backtrack, right, of what you have in your life that you're happy with now, or that your blessings or your gratitudes, whatever, and you backtrack from there, and you say, boy, the disappointments go away in the past that you had, because you'd realize you wouldn't have what you have if not for the rerouting or the something better coming along, or you think to the house that you didn't get, that you looked at and the realtor said, but then the house that you're in you love. But then you still hold on to I'm disappointed by that.
It wasn't meant for you. Maybe there was, lead in the paint. Like, you don't know why, but you have to trust it was for you, not to you.
Yeah.
These are things that I will say probably in every show. And they run through my brain every day 100 times. You can't hear it enough. You're not a victim. And I think that's what we need to remember. Bad things happen to us. They are for you, not to you. You are getting something out of it. And you talked about praying for strength. Yeah. I literally just said this, and I was unaware. And this is why self-reflection. Like, we learn as we go, and I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to figure life out too. But my prayer for the last, 25 years or so has been, please, God, give me the strength to do whatever it was. But I started with that.
Right.
I'm like an Avenger. I'm so freaking strong. I became so capable of doing in 24 hours, the 12 waking hours, things that I shouldn't have had to do, things that I should have maybe allowed for support, but I was strong enough.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing it because that was my prayer. Until I had that aha moment. Stop freaking praying for strength. Pray for support.
Right.
Pray for help. Why not?
And perspective.
Yeah.
For us to pull ourselves back and look at the bigger picture, which God sees, and he sees the direction that we're headed in. He knows the beginning, the middle, the end.
Yeah.
Right? So he already knows the chapter the book is written.
Yeah.
And so our victory was already given to us as human beings because we're here for victory and for success and for happiness and abundance and joy. So it's already there. We're getting in our own way.
We always do.
It's so when you're in the weeds, it's so hard to see the bigger picture and looking down on something.
It can be. It's not like all the answers come at once, and the most enlightened among us don't have a catastrophe and just like immediately feel good. It is a process of like, okay, sometimes you have to feel it, but you can't park there. Like, this is a really bad thing. Maybe you have your cry, and you have your confidant, and you share it with your spouse, or you share it with your best friend, and you have that kind of like, all right, let me process it. I'm going to need a minute. So, and if a minute might mean hours, it might mean days, it might mean whatever it means to you, but know that that is temporary, and then start reaching for, this is happening for me, not to me. So it's like you're not just like resilient to any pain anymore.
Right.
Like, it happens, and it has to happen. Like we said, dark, you don't know light unless you've had the dark. You don't know peace unless you've had the pain. So it is that.
And I brought this up in week 1 when you were on my other show, and I mentioned this guy, Christian Sundberg, who talks about pre-birth experiences and selecting everything that you experience here on Earth as we come. And he describes this whole realm, or again, everyone understands that there is an infinite universe of infinite time, infinite space, that this isn't it, right? I even think the most crazy of agnostics or atheists or non-believers have to admit there's something else that's out there and they don't understand. And I've heard this from this guy, and I've heard it from a few others who, by the way, have no incentive to come out and be a Looney Tune and say crazy things. And he has another job, and he's like, it's really been hard for me to balance this.
And he's not original. There's probably other people saying the same thing. Right.
And he would say, you come here, and it's like picking groceries off of a shelf and saying, I want this, I want this, I want to experience frustration or betrayal or anger, or I want to go at this world, but I want to do it with one leg, or I want to do it with an illness, and I want to experience that. And we're in the life, and we go, why would we pick this, right? But it is the same exact reason of why you'd go to a restaurant and order a food item to try it and to experience it. Your life doesn't end because the food was bad or you didn't enjoy it. It was just something that you experienced and tried. And there are realms of human existence, and this goes into even talk about aliens and like extraterrestrials, of like, we have the ability to be our spiritual beings on other planets, and the Earth existence is known in the spiritual realm as one of the hardest existences to
be
have.
Here. You're right,
because there's a lot to experience, and there's a lot of, and if we had that memory of the other world, like we said, we need that veil of forgetfulness. We wouldn't get the full experience here, because in the movie theater, right, when you see the fear, you're leaving, you're walking out at the end. And I guess you would know that here too. Like, you're not going to live eternally in fear. Maybe that's what hell is. But we know that we can have that.
Or is hell on earth? So you talked about you always worry, right? Yeah. And you were saying, I'm always worried about everything. But you also said on the last show, and it's a common thing for people to say about, you have two choices, fear or love. And you brought it up last show. So if that's true, and here you brought the sign, love, it's always an option. And if you choose fear, it's going to limit you. It's an absolute. There are very few absolutes in the world.
And even having worry is considered a sin, because you're not trusting God to have your best, he has your best interest at heart.
Right. How's this going to work out?
It's hard,
Not
but it's
how,
hard.
but
Yeah.
I trust it will work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's always working for your highest good. And that's it's a comforting thought, and it's easy work. And this is like the point that I'm trying to make, that this isn't something that you have to evolve to start thinking like, just try it. Try to breathe different today. Try to, check and see, are you worrying? What's your self-talk? What are your dominant thoughts? Are they like, is it more self-love or is it more self-doubt? And then just try to switch it up a little bit. Try to fall in love with yourself today and see how you do.
And I go back to the deeper meaning of like why, to establish some sort of baseline of you and I, you mentioned it, we're very thoughtful, spiritual,
Yeah.
We think about those things. But I think a lot of people out there don't think that way.
Well, we weren't trained to.
So a problem
Yeah.
is a major issue because there isn't anything else to put it into a perspective box. And if you can develop some type of baseline of understanding, look, I don't know why these things happen, but they happen for a greater reason that I don't understand. It's such a great opportunity to detach yourself and look and observe your existence.
Agreed.
And look at the higher version of Sharmin who can step aside, who can be that voice in your ear to be like, you're doing a great job. Because you can look at yourself sympathetically. Like if you were your twin sister,
Yeah.
what would you say to you?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you would say to your kid, or like, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. You're beautiful. But then we don't feel that for ourselves.
Okay, so I love that. And I often tell parents to make sure you tell your children they are the most special, beautiful, magical souls on the planet. Why? Because whatever they believe, they will be. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But it's true for you too. And it's so interesting because right away they'll be like, okay, I can do that. But why is it so hard to do that for yourself?
Yeah. Gosh. This was a deep one.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's good.
A lot of wheels going around.
I know, same.
Yep.
Same. But the banter was just where I feel like, we're Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. Like,
Yep.
one sets it up and the other one smacks it off into the...
Are you Ed McMahon or Johnny
I don't know.
Carson, or-
I don't know.
I learned that you have replacement legs. You had said on the show. We've learned a lot on
Yes.
this particular program. But I think that this is the fresh conversations that are sourced for me. We talked about that the first half of like plugging back into trying to just think about everything and not just getting caught up in the same old earthly meniscus.
I agree. There's one more. I think we're probably close to the end.
Sure.
Are we close
Yeah.
to the end?
Well, go ahead.
There's one more point because you just said plug in. And this is often a metaphor that I use with my clients about plugging in. So if we talked about the ways you can elevate your frequency by hugging the cat, the person, going out in nature, what have you, connecting with others is important in the way that a lot of people with triggers and traumas don't let people love them, but they're really good at giving love. Maybe it's you, I don't know, but I know a lot of people who are that way. They can't receive it, but they're loving people. They're very good at giving it. And the analogy I use, or the metaphor I give about that, it's like a plug, those Apple plugs that, the prongs can fold into the block. So it's just a square block, or you can move the prongs and they come out. It would be like trying to plug in your phone with the prongs down, right? We need that human connection. We need to really allow people to love us. Like me praying for strength, I was so strong. I didn't need any help at all, but I really did. Letting people love me through a challenge was eye-opening. And that's the only way I discovered that I was praying for that, because I was like, whew, this feels amazing.
Right.
People are loving me. People are supporting me. They were always there, but I was like, no, I got this. I got this.
Yeah, and I think if you understand the powers of the universe and the laws of nature, it is love. That's it, right? And so
it's a choice.
It's such a powerful thing that people experience it. They know it when they see it, but they can't describe it. It's not a tangible thing. So it's definitely something that comes with a consciousness that isn't just about our bodies. Yeah, there's a physical reaction to love, and it can be pain. Love can be hurt, because when somebody you lose is somebody you loved,
Yeah.
then that's pain, but that's love also.
And it's
right?
the gifts of their life and yours. And
Right.
how can you, in gratitude, live for them for the rest of your life?
And love is a connection that you now have tied into the other person.
Yes.
So that when that person goes away, a part of you goes away.
Ooh,
you know?
I heard a quote today that totally envelops what you just said. I heard we have to love with our souls because the mind will forget and the heart will stop, but the soul is forever.
Yeah.
So what a beautiful way to think about loving so deeply. But who do you let love you that way?
Right.
And if you're not letting anybody love you that way, start to. And are you like the little block with your prongs down? If that's true,
you gotta be love before you can get.
you have to
love.
fall in love with yourself.
Love isn't a thing that comes at you. It's something that you give, and then it just.
Well, and a lot of times when we don't love ourselves, we think someone's going to heal me if they could just love me.
Right.
No, it's never going to happen.
Right.
You cannot attract love if you don't start with yourself. So that's the lesson. If somebody's out there right now listening and watching and they're saying like, oh yeah, that's me. I have no friends and I, can't find a partner and what have you, fall in love with yourself. Do the work.
Yeah.
Be that magnet that radiates that high frequency that attracts people looking for love.
Yeah. And the hardest commandment that is out there is love your neighbor as you love yourself, because that's so impossible.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, and also if you don't love yourself, you're like, well.
But
yeah.
I mean, even thinking like we tolerate others.
Yeah.
And we have to welcome others, even if we don't engage with them or whatever. When you're going into the grocery store and it's
right.
frustrated the crowds or
right.
whatever, we're put here as organisms that are separate but very well connected. And again, going back to the experiences that you hear, the testimonies from people who have millions of people who have died and come back and like speak of this.
It fascinates you, I think, for a very great reason. You can draw so much from it.
Well, it becomes more proof, right, of what you were trying to discover. And
right.
it's human beings are not designed to just make stuff up like that where there's no advantage. Right? If I were to make something up and maybe sell a book or a movie script or something, it's one thing. But there are people who have held on to these things for so long, these stories, because they just felt crazy. And they said, if I talk about this to anybody else, my religion doesn't really support it.
But
my
they all
family
match
tells
up.
them crazy. So they don't tell the stories. But there's a universal truth to a lot of them.
The energetic love.
love.
And there's just no fear,
and
no
the
doubt.
connection, we're all interconnected.
Connected.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but we isolate ourselves first. And then we want people to love us, and we feel so sad that people don't. It's never going to work. It's never going to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So you have to change the way you look at it to make the things you look at change. So look at your body and look at your arms and think. Look at your arms and think how many people that you love that those arms have held. Look at your eyes and think how many, and actually I posted this today, a friend shared it, my friend Melody, if she's watching, she shared this, and it moved me, and I actually messaged her. But when you think about your eyes, and you think about, wow, these eyes have seen oceans and mountains and sunsets, right? Or you look at your feet and you think, wow, these feet, they have carried me through some of the darkest and hardest days. Or these legs through the longest journeys, right? Or these smiles that have been there for the moments of joy that have lit up a million times. Instead of looking at your body in disdain and what's wrong with it, love your body for the moments it gave you. And it's amazing.
I'm ashamed, even as you're going, I'm like, oh, my feet are a mess. Like, the only thing I really love is my butt. I think I have.
It's the only thing the audience can't see. It's a different show.
Well, the butt cam another time. But I think we're just built to be self-deprecating, in a way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it is a hard thing.
We
to
talked about that
overcome.
off camera last week. Yeah.
And even when you come on and then you don't think you look good or something like that, and I'm like, you're Sharmin.
This camera is so close to me today that I was like, oh my God, I am 50. I can't have it that close.
You don't look it, and I know how ridiculous it is for you to say those things, but I also then it just reflects right back at me because I'm like, why I say the same dumb things about ourselves. Like I don't look good or something like that.
But listen, you caught me in it. So this is you calling me out and me loving it because I was like, so true.
Yeah.
And I shut right up and I was like so grateful and I felt great and I don't even care. Like we can't.
How many times, and maybe not you, because I've seen a picture of myself.
Yeah.
That from years ago.
Yeah.
That when at the time I'm like, I'm never going to let anybody see this. I'm horrible looking.
And you
in
think
it.
back and
I
you
look
like,
now and I go, boy, I look great.
Yeah, it's amazing. No, for sure.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And like I guess it's perspective and
Yeah.
whatever. But I think that.
But that's why, like, there's this whole thing where moms don't get in photos. Moms, you know,
Yeah.
because they don't have the time to make themselves look good because they're caring for the children, and they're like, no. But when you don't take the photo because you're afraid of how you look, then you rob yourself of the memory of being in that moment, right? And your children remembering that you were right there next to me, and the children always see their parents in the most beautiful light. Anyways, we do this to ourselves, and our experience in this world can feel so different if we start to think differently.
All the things that made us who we are.
Absolutely.
Which is
our evolution.
Right.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
that's good stuff. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Good talk, Russ.
I know.
Yeah.
Very good. So next time, what are we going to talk about? We'll figure that out. But
I know. Okay, so let's tell them that. So we don't even always know. We kind of try to throw out a weird umbrella, which is so vague. But I think our magic is the exchange of thoughts, because it's the same thoughts that everyone has.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Sharmin, as always.
Thanks, Chuck.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.